Beneath slate-gray skies, where the horizon shimmers in undulating sheets of mist, there lies a sea whose history is riddled with darkness, a sea brooding, ever churning, always hungry. The Black Sea. Few bodies of water have inspired such a persistent sense of dread and awe, a place where legend and reality collide in the swirling obscurity of fog and myth. Its depths conceal the bones of empires, the secrets of vanished vessels, and the whispered fears of those who dare to sail its treacherous expanse. What compels humanity to cross such haunted waters? Is it simple trade adventure, the seductive promise of discovery, or something deeper? Perhaps a need to test the limits of fate itself. From the time of the ancient Greeks, who once believed this sea was watched over by gods and haunted by monsters, to war fleets and fishermen, in more recent memory, the Black Sea has been a witness and accomplice to innumerable stories. Yet of all its tales, there are some that chill the bones in ways that facts alone cannot explain. Stories that become warnings, whispered around the flickering light of shipboard lanterns. The kinds of stories that demand more than disbelief, but rather provoke the ultimate question. What if the impossible is in fact possible? Tonight, cast adrift with me into the obsidian heart of the Black Sea. Imagine a ship appearing on the waves where none should be, her hull, weathered but intact, her sails drooping in an unnatural stillness. No echo of laughter or the rhythmic chant of sailors hoisting ropes. No living soul upon her decks. Only the eerie creak of timber, the whip of cold wind, and the sunken silence of expectation. When local coast guards approach hoping for survivors of a maritime mishap, they find nothing but a vessel emptied of life, cabins abandoned in haste, meals left uneaten, every personal belonging still in place as if its owner had stepped away only for a moment. A floating tomb, preserved by time, bobbing in the relentless current. The reports grow stranger. Instruments aboard the ghost ship function, yet no log entries explain what transpired. Aboard, a faint scent of salt and smoke and marks on the deck that some say look less like footprints and more like the impressions of something clawing its way into or out of the planking. Communications with the nearest port had ceased hours before, but there were no distress calls, no mayday signals, no whisper of trouble. Just silence stretching out, swallowing answers whole. What truly happened to these vanished sailors? What can rip away a crew from the world, leave behind no traces of panic, struggle, or hope? Had something ancient awakened from the inky abyss, something that has waited centuries for the lull of an unwary ship? Or is this a story about the failings of the human mind, the slow unweaving of sanity in the face of isolation and endless horizon? A tragedy of men undone by their own terror, suspicion, or despair. Perhaps there is a rational explanation. Pirates' mutiny, an outbreak of violence or disease. Yet the longer investigators stare into the empty eyes of the derelict vessel, the more reality recedes, replaced by something colder, something that gnaws at certainty itself. Survivors, if any, vanish without a trace. Even the bravest among the investigators begin to wonder, have they peered too deeply into a darkness better left undisturbed? Is the Black Sea merely a stretch of salt water, a stage for unlucky mariners and superstitious tales? Or is there inside its churning heart an unsleeping secret, one that claims what it wishes when it wishes? And what can we learn here in the safety of our homes? From the story of a ship found drifting beyond all logic, as we follow the wake of vanished souls, we peer not just into the abyss of the marine unknown, but into the abyss within ourselves. This is the chronicle of a vanishing, of men lost to the world of a ghost ship wandering the Black Sea and the questions it leaves in its haunted path. Let us begin with the last days of the MV Carpathian Star, and dive together into the chilling mystery of the sailors missing in the Black Sea, where only their ship remains. Part 1. The Last Voyage of the Carpathian Star. It began with a departure, as all great tragedies do. Late in the autumn of 2014, when the northern winds began to gnaw at the Turkish coastline, and storms prowled the water like silent wolves, the MV Carpathian Star cast off from the port city of Trabzon. She was not a grand ship, some 70 meters of rust-streaked steel a cargo hauler converted for mixed use, but she was sturdy, crewed by veterans and rookies alike. Aboard 15 men and 2 women each with their own reasons for braving the late-season trade run south toward Varna. The manifest listed coffee beans machinery components in crates, marked simply as specimens, their sender a university in Bucharest, their contents known only to the captain. Captain Ionel Dragan was a man of 63 skin, aged by sun and brine, infamous for his strict discipline and deep growling voice that could freeze the blood of young deckhands. He led a skeleton crew, sturdy bosun Oleg Sokolov, irreverent first mate Mihai Petrescu, quietly superstitious helmsman Ivan Chernozem, engineer Anya Tarasova, the only woman aboard aside from Liviu Dumitru, their communications officer, steward Sergei Morev, who too often gazed mournfully at the stars. The Carpathian Star pulled away under a waxing gibbous moon. If their journey wore an air of adventure, it hid a streak of desperation. Dwindling funds plagued the company. Dragan had accepted the shipment without asking too many questions about the sealed specimens. Some said it would be his last voyage, a simple, profitable run, and then retirement. But as the Carpathian Star left port, none aboard sensed fate's hands tightening around their throats. 2 days passed quietly enough. The autumn sea was treacherous, but the crew trusted her hull and each other. During the brisk mornings, deckhands scrubbed salt from railings. Over simple meals of black bread and salted fish, they joked about shore leave, betting on how soon the youngest would be puking their guts out in heavy weather. The only harbinger of strangeness were the sealed containers below decks. Anya, on one late-night round, heard faint tapping from inside their metal walls. She shrugged it off as settling cargo cold iron contracting in the night chill, but by the third dawn, with the sky a bloodless gray and the wind sharpening to a keening whistle, an unease settled aboard the Carpathian Star. Birds circled once, twice, then vanished. The compass flickered between bearings. The radio maintained by Liviu stuttered and fizzled, picking up interference. Snatches of strange static, what sounded like voices or guttural laughter, fading into nothing. Captain Dragan posted a double watch and ordered the crew to keep off the lower cargo hold at night. He did not say why. That evening, as darkness pressed like a living thing against the portholes, Oleg found Captain Dragan standing alone at the bow, staring into the thickening fog gathering over the water. When pressed, Dragan merely muttered, "The sea is different tonight, Oleg. Keep your eyes open." None aboard would sleep easily again. Part 2. The Gathering Storm. If fear is a slow poison, then on the Carpathian Star, it began to seep into every crevice. Deckhands muttered about bad omens. Ivan the helmsman confessed he felt watched at the wheel. Even Mihai, nothing if not a skeptic, began to hold back jokes when talk turned to the cargo below decks. The fog grew thicker, pressed itself along the hull like a second skin. For hours, visibility shrank to arm's length. The engine, usually a steady heartbeat, coughed and hiccuped at random intervals, only to return to smooth function when Anya checked the gauges. Shadows pooled at the far reaches of the deck, and more than one sailor swore he saw movement out of the corner of his eye. Shapes hunched and shifting, never there when the lights swung around. Anya, Drawn by curiosity and the peculiar rhythmic tapping that continued each night, broke protocol on the 5th evening. She brought a flashlight and descended alone into the cargo hold. The tapping ceased as soon as she opened the heavy door, replaced by an oppressively thick silence. She moved between containers, trailing her fingertips along the smooth, chilled metal. When her beam fell on one crate stamped with the wax seal of a Romanian university, she heard a faint, tremulous sigh so light she believed at first it was her own breath. But when she placed her ear to the side, she caught a series of slow, deliberate scratches, like nails etching a message over and over against the bulkhead of the crate. She told no one, but for the remainder of the voyage, she sleeplessly tracked faint noises echoing through the steel hull. Above decks, tempers began to fray. Oleg caught 2 deckhands brawling in the galley over a trivial slight, each raving that the other was smiling in their dreams. The captain's log, usually crisp and precise, became sparser, the handwriting wavering as if written with a trembling hand. At night, Sergei the steward was seen holding whispered conversations with the portraits in the mess hall. Old oil paintings of ships lost at sea, their frames warped by time and humidity. Worse, bizarre signals began crackling from the radio. Words in languages no one aboard could identify, and once, just past midnight, Liviu heard her own voice unmistakably calling from the static. "Please help me. Please help us." But she was the only one awake at the console. Within this tightening spiral of unease, the Carpathian Star pressed on through black, endless waves. Yet unknown to the crew, something had begun to move below, drifting between the spectral boundaries, separating the natural from the unnatural. Part 3. Apparitions. On the 7th day, reality shattered. At dawn, Ivan arrived at the wheelhouse to find the door wide open and Captain Dragon gone. The electronic log registered a series of entries after midnight, none in the captain's hand, all gibberish, some resembling ancient cuneiform, others illegible spirals inked in violently. A search commenced. No sign of Dragon was ever found, save for a single glove on the bow crusted with sea brine. His cabin was undisturbed. The bed still made the logbook open to a page torn clean in half. Now the sense of a malevolent force hunting the crew bloomed into panic. Oleg assumed command, but the men and women aboard looked to him with haunted eyes. As the hours passed, further disappearances occurred as methodical as a predator's feeding. First the cook, then a deckhand, then 2 more. All vanished while alone, their last known whereabouts always in the most isolated corners of the ship engine room. Stern cargo hold a locked bathroom. Each time the only evidence a trace of salt water puddled at the site, and a coldness that lingered for hours afterward. Rumors spread of pale, translucent figures glimpsed in the mist. Liviu claimed she saw Captain Dragon standing atop the aft deck, his eyes perfectly black, his mouth stretched impossibly wide, before he vanished in a shimmer of fog. Anya, exhausted and hallucinating, claimed to have exchanged words with her long-dead brother, who warned her to seal the specimens, or all will be lost. Ivan, overcome by unseen terror, abandoned his post at the wheel during a night when the fog pressed so thickly that the stars disappeared and the sea seemed to whisper their names. He was last sighted, stumbling blindly across the deck, muttering in Romanian, "It is hungry. It is waiting." Below decks, the sealed containers began to seep a viscous, dark fluid from beneath their lids. Under ultraviolet light, the fluid pulsed with a weak copper glow, forming runic patterns on the deck. By now, a few of those left considered launching the lifeboat, but the winches were jammed and enough lifebelts had disappeared that desperation crumbled into fatalism. Sergei, once so gentle, went mad barricading himself in the galley. He scrawled prayers onto the walls with his own blood, until he too slipped away, leaving only silence and red-latched shadows. Part 4: Descent. 3 days later, there remained just Anya, Mihai, Oleg, and Liviu. Sleep was impossible. What peace remained was shattered each dawn as the ship's bell tolled of its own accord, echoing across the dead gray waves. Oleg, gripped by guilt and rage, attempted to destroy the mysterious containers. He hammered at the metal, screaming, but the crates would not yield. Instead, they buckled inward as if something inside pressed hungrily outward. The deck beneath them shuddered, and Anya cried out in alarm, convinced the whole ship would be dragged below. Oleg backed away, eyes wild, whispering, "They're not meant for here. We're not meant for here." That night, a storm of unnatural ferocity descended. Lightning lashed the sky. Thunder rolled without end. The water beneath the Carpathian Star boiled and heaved. A single soul-chilling wail cut through the wind, the sound of something colossal stirring in the depths. And the ship's lights flickered, died, and came sputtering back. Mihai attempted to send a mayday, but the radio speaker only hissed back a voice that spoke in a familiar, terrified tone, his own calling from the future, screaming a warning too garbled to understand. When Oleg tried to reach the engine room, he found all access hatches fused shut by an oily, unidentifiable residue. Liviu's last act was to lock herself in the communications cabin and scrawl a final message onto the inside wall: "We never left port. The sea owns us." When Anya broke in hours later, the room was empty, the message smeared by salt and condensation. At dawn, Mihai was gone. Oleg found a trail of wet footprints leading to the rail, but no splash, no disturbance of water. Only a whisper riding the wind, inconceivable, wordless, leaving dread in its wake. Now just Oleg and Anya remained alone in the twilight world the Carpathian Star had become. Below, whatever dwelled within the sealed containers pulsed with malignant purpose. With every passing hour, the temperature plummeted, breath crystallizing in the air. It was Oleg, sleep-deprived and despairing, who finally attempted to throw the containers overboard. But as he pried at the locks, the decks trembled, the ship itself groaning as if in protest. He looked up to see spectral forms materializing. The lost crew, their faces warped in anguish, forever reaching, imploring, begging forgiveness. Then, one by one, they turned, walked through the steel bulkhead, and vanished forever. Part 5: Ghost Ship. It is uncertain how, or if, Anya survived. Her final entry in a torn engineering log reads as follows: "There is no more time. The sea will have what she is owed. I send this for no one but myself. I hear the voices. They want to come home." When the storm finally lifted, the Carpathian Star was discovered adrift by a Turkish coastal patrol. Every system was operational, but the engines were cold, the keys still in the ignition. Food remained half-eaten in the galley, still warm as if melted by an unnatural heat. The logbooks contained only blank, water-stained pages. The sealed containers had vanished, leaving only rings of that same oily, copper-laced residue. No sign of struggle, no sign of the crew. Those who boarded the vessel reported feelings of overwhelming dread and heard in the distant fog the echoing, wordless chant of voices desperately calling out for salvation. Some investigators grew ill-plagued by nightmares for months. The Carpathian Star was towed back to port, declared unsalvageable, and ultimately scuttled at sea. She disappeared beneath the waves, leaving no evidence behind save for haunting rumor. The Turkish and Romanian authorities filed routine accident reports, crew presumed lost at sea. Cause of disappearance unknown. Families of the crew received compensation, but there were whispered warnings shared between sailors. The Black Sea does not forget, nor does it forgive. But occasionally, Even now, as autumn mists curl over the water, fishermen report seeing a ship drifting through the fog, ghostly, silent, bearing no flag. Sometimes they say she is accompanied by fleeting images of men and women searching her deserted decks, doomed forever to repeat their final silent voyage. To this day, the fate of the Carpathian Star and her unlucky crew remains one of the Black Sea's great unsolved mysteries. Rational explanations abound: pirates, human error, mass, psychosis, foul play. But all such answers seem to dissolve in the cold shadow cast by the facts. A ship in perfect order, a crew evaporated into nothingness, and a trail of dread so profound it stains the memory of all who approached her. What then are we left with? Perhaps only questions and a sense of unease that seeps into the soul of every mariner who dares the Black Sea's waters. We are left with a rumble of storms, and a glint of moonlight on oil-black waves, and the knowledge that across the span of centuries the sea has demanded sacrifices, and will likely always continue to do so. It is tempting to believe ourselves the masters of our world, to chart every danger, to overcome with technology and discipline every threat the ocean can throw at us. But stories like this persist. They remind us that the world remains a wild, indifferent place full of mysteries we are perhaps not meant to solve. Whatever haunted the Carpathian Star, whether born from the bottling up of grief and madness, or from some ancient, hungry presence lurking in the Black Sea's depths, it faced the sailors not just as a force of nature, but as the living embodiment of everything unknowable. And so, as we close this story, consider the fate of that ill-starred crew. Ordinary men and women who vanished into myth and mist, who became more than names on a manifest. The Black Sea claimed them, as it has claimed so many before. Only their ghostly vessel remained a drifting reminder of our own fragile grip on reality. Perhaps in their story, we glimpse a deeper truth, that no matter how long we sail these waters, whether literal or metaphorical, we are forever in the shadow of forces beyond our sight, forever haunted by questions we cannot answer. And only by respecting the unknown, by treading lightly where the fog grows thick and the silence cuts keen, can we hope to return from the boundaries where this world ends and the next begins. Next time you look out over a misty sea, remember, not every ship that vanishes is lost. Some drift just beyond the reach of understanding, forever searching for home. And in the darkness, somewhere beneath cold waves, the voices of the missing sailors wait, calling forever. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the abyss. Until next time, beware the fog, beware the silence, and never forget, even when the voyage is over, some ships are never truly at rest.